welcome to another episode of Making Mindset Matter, the podcast all about all things mindset and personal development, with me, your host, Lorna McKenna. If you haven't already done so, then please do click the subscribe or follow button so you can be notified when I bring out a new episode every single Monday. With that being said, I'm going to get started on today's podcast episode where I'm going to talk about my journey with physical development. Because until recently, I didn't truly understand that personal development meant physical, mental and spiritual development. And I think a lot of people think personal development is just mindset stuff, and that's actually not the case. Like I said, it's your physical, mental and spiritual development. And my development journey actually started with physical development. So I thought it was a good place to start, because I've been wanting to do an episode where I talk about my journey so you can really understand how far I've come and like where I've come from and the kind of things that I've overcome, the kind of things that have held me back, and just all around like where I've been on my development journey that's got me to the point where I am today. So I think my journey is split into two parts. I think physical development is one part of it, and obviously the mindset journey I've been on is another. And I was going to do it all in one episode, but I feel like when I was actually trying to pinpoint the key things in my journey of development and the growth journey that I've been on, it was just going to be too long to do it in one episode. So I thought, let me split it between. So today's episode is going to be about physical development, and a lot of these things I actually haven't spoken about before. People, if they follow me on Instagram, will have seen I've been on a weight loss journey, I've been on a physical development journey, but I've never talked about some of the things I'm going to talk about today. And this is quite a vulnerable episode for me, because there's things I've never touched upon, like things that have really held me back. And yeah, I'm going to be as open and honest with you as possible, because I think it's important for the transparency, because that way I can share my experience in it all. And if me, by talking about my experience, helps somebody else, then it's worth me being vulnerable and sharing that. So I'm going to get started, because with my physical development, my weight, I'm going to talk about it, was something that I have always battled with from a child. From being a young age, I've always had such a negative image of myself, of the way that I looked. I always felt like growing up I was the biggest out of all my friends. I was the bigger one in the group, and this is something I can just remember as far back as I can. Like I said, I always felt like the biggest out of all my friends. I mean, at 15 I joined Slimming World, for goodness sake, and I'm obviously a lot thinner than not a lot thinner, I'm lighter than I was now, and I used to think I was huge, and I look back and just think I had such a dysform about the way that I looked, that it actually really impacted me. I always battled with this yo-yo dieting and stuff, and that's something that actually continued throughout the time especially when I started uni and I moved away from home. My weight always yo-yos. I'd lose weight, I'd be consistent, I'd not. And growing up as a child, I was really into sports. I did synchronized swimming, I used to swim all the time, and I did loads of other sports. I was quite active. I just always felt in my head that I was big. So I think that is something that carried me through into being a young adult and going onwards, and especially hitting puberty and stuff. Obviously your body changes dramatically. And it's not something that I really realised, how much I had yo-yoed up and down. And when I look back at myself, I just see how I'd lose weight, I'd go up, I'd yo-yo. I would try everything possible to do what I was doing, and I'd stick to something for a month. There was no consistency in what I was doing at all, and it was just something. And then the real turning point when I'd realised I'd really let myself go, because I was so unaware that I had, was when I actually came out of a relationship when I finished university, and I was looking at my graduation pictures and realised that I just absolutely could not stand the way I looked. It actually made me feel so upset when I looked at it that I'd let myself get to that point. Because what I didn't realise is my internal dialogue and the way that I was feeling, the miserableness that I felt inside, and was actually reflecting on the outside. And I'd let myself get to a point where I'd put on a lot of weight. I had no awareness of doing this at the time. I was not present with what I'm doing. I was just using like food as a numbing thing, and I was going out all the time, like drinking, taking drugs, like you do at uni, the whole uni experience. It was just a vicious cycle of like constantly like just numbing something. But at the time I did not see that. Like I didn't see that all these things like food and alcohol etc was all a form of numbing. They was just for me at the time a comfort, and I was in this like cycle. It was like a vicious cycle like I couldn't get out of, that I wasn't even aware that I was in, because I didn't know any different. I didn't know any different from this cycle. And looking at these pictures from my graduation, and when I look back at them now, I used to look back at them with such like disgust, but I just look at them as being a turning point for me to actually begin my physical development journey. And they were the ones that like shifted something in my mindset to do something about where I was at and where I was, and I didn't want to be like that anymore because I felt so uncomfortable in myself. I used to go out, I'd like feel like I was out of breath, like I'd sweat a lot because I was big, and it was a lot of strain for my body to be under, and I didn't like realise that at the time, because why would I realise that if I'm so unaware of what I was doing? How would I know like the effect it was actually having on my body? So back in November 2017, I actually decided to start with a PT, Rosie. She was amazing, and she actually like brought into my awareness like how many calories was in a double gin and tonic, and I would drink like 7 8 of them a night, and she was like, you do realise like, how many extra calories you're consuming? And I was just like, wow, that is a lot, isn't it? That is a lot of calories. And I was just I think I don't want to say like spiraling out of control, but I was just not aware. I was just in a cycle I didn't want to be in anymore. So like I said, in November 2017, I actually started on a weight loss journey. And by doing this, it actually changed my relationship with food. I became more aware of what I was putting into my body and like the amount of food that I was eating, etc. And obviously going to the gym more. And I think within like 6 weeks I'd lost a stone, and then another 3 months later I'd lost another stone. So within sort of like 4 months of embarking on my weight loss journey, I lost 2 stone. And then I continued sort of over the next couple of like year and a half, and I lost 4 stone in total, which is obviously quite a substantial amount of weight. But one thing I did notice, that even though I had lost this weight, in my head I still thought I was the same size. And this is something that's taken me such a long time to get over and to really change my mindset on, because I just would go into the shop even after losing 4 stone and still go and pick up the biggest size possible, because in my head I couldn't physically see that I had lost 4 stone. I still had this image of myself. And I don't even know why, like now I'm sat recording this, like it's making me upset, like thinking about that. I can just, because I just think it's such a sad feeling that I'd put all this work in, and I should have been so proud of myself for the journey that I'd been on. But in my head, I couldn't appreciate any of it. And I was still so miserable with the way that I looked, and thought that I was still 4 stone heavier. And just like on reflection now, like while I'm recording this, like I said, it upsets me to think that, because I didn't work on my mindset. And it was all well and good changing my external, but I didn't change the internal. So I still had such negative self-talk about myself. I would still call myself fat. I would still think I looked disgusting. And I just had such low self-worth, self-esteem, and just didn't value like where I was on my journey at all. I wasn't proud of how far I'd come. I didn't give myself any credit, because I just thought, even though I'd been on this massive like physical development journey and I'd really had transformed myself, I didn't work on my mindset. So I didn't change the thought patterns that I had around myself, and like that's why I had such bad negative self-talk. And it wasn't until I started working on my mindset, and I will go into this more on the episode I do about my mindset journey, but it wasn't until I started working on my mindset and realised actually like the negative self-talk I was having about myself was actually like a form of self-abuse, that I realised actually you've done so well, like you should be proud of yourself. And I've kept a lot of like before and after pictures, and I used to look at the before pictures and I used to be so ashamed and embarrassed and feel like I think embarrassed is the word, embarrassed that I let myself get to that point. And I used to like hold on to it like, oh my God, I can't believe I let myself get like that. And like, I think that is what I'd say to everybody, like, I'm embarrassed that I let myself get like that. But it's not embarrassing, because I shouldn't be ashamed of any part of my journey. And that's something I also learned from working on my mindset, that never be ashamed of any part of your journey, because it's your journey. And if you hadn't have had them experiences, and if I hadn't have been at that lowest point I was, like with it in my like physical being, I wouldn't be where I am today, and I wouldn't appreciate where I am today as much as I do. And maybe it wouldn't have shaped me to be the person I am, making the impact that I want to, if I hadn't have experienced that. So I've really managed to shift my mindset from being this sort of, oh my God, how did I let myself get like that, to actually, you weren't aware, you weren't present. It's all part of your journey, and it's all part of who you are sat here today talking. And so, like I said, I'd lost like 4 stone, and then obviously we hit a pandemic. And I was so determined at the start of the first lockdown not to let myself go. But as time went on, and I was going out for the only thing we could do, go out for walks and runs. And I was doing really well to go out and get exercise, and I realised that how much walking was like a form of therapy for me. But obviously, as time went on throughout 2020, I did like fall in and out of exercising. My eating habits weren't great, because obviously we was in a time of uncertainty, a time of where things weren't going well for people, and people were like struggling with the uncertainty. I definitely was. The being in a house all the time with not much to do, it was uncertain. And in that year I put on about 1.5 stone, and it wasn't until the end of last year, September 2020, that I actually like managed to get myself back into a place where I was enjoying exercising again. I joined 9 Rounds like near where I live, which is like a kickboxing gym, and just really like fell back in love with exercising. But for some reason, like my eating habits, I'd like sort of like lost control of them, and even though I was exercising, I wasn't eating great, and it's just like a battle. So it came to November last year, and I decided to challenge myself with one of the trainers at the gym to do November, which was like no chocolate, no sweets, no alcohol, no takeaways for 30 days. I thought, I'm going to give myself this mindset challenge. Like, for me, eating chocolate or sweets has always been a comfort when I'm stressed. I definitely think I used to be like a stress eater. I wouldn't say I am now, but that is something that I was. I thought that when I was stressed, I needed to eat chocolate, bag of chocolate, not a bar of chocolate, a share bag of chocolate. But so when I was challenging myself in November, I thought, oh, I'm not going to be, the first thing that came into my head is, I'm not going to be able to do that. How can I go 30 days without eating chocolate? Like, it's not possible. Because I'd been chocolate orange obsessed for about 2 months prior, because chocolate orange is amazing, but that's another note. So I'd been like, I thought, I'm not going to be able to do it. But then I thought, no, like that's where my mindset is. If I'm telling myself I can't do something, I'm not going to be able to do it. And I told myself I can do it, and I managed it. And I actually think that was a turning point for me in that November. I realised actually I didn't need food as a comfort anymore. I didn't need it when I was stressed. And I managed to actually sort of, just by challenging myself, break a habit that I've had for like 25 years, which in itself is an amazing thing to overcome. And it's just a little reminder to you all that you can overcome things. Like, just because we think that we're a certain way, we're not. We can make any changes that we desire. It just takes a little bit of hard work and a little bit of determination. But anyway, so I'm just going to fast forward like from the end of last year to the start of this year, because I feel like this year's been a huge turning point. I was sat, I don't know about you, but sat on New Year's Eve really reflecting on the year and like what it is I wanted to achieve from 2021. And I made a commitment to myself in 2021 for 2021 that I would be my priority. I would put my physical, mental and spiritual development and working on myself as a priority to everything. Everything else has come second to me working on myself, and that was going to be my priority. So yeah, my commitment for 2021 was to make me my greatest investment, because you are your greatest investment. Because we have the longest relationship with ourselves, we need to make sure that we look after it. We need to make sure we look after the body that we have and nurture it, because we only have one, and the body is an incredible thing and it allows us to do amazing things, and we need to look after it. It is our home at the end of the day. Like we are in this body, like it's our home. So yeah, I made a commitment to myself in, like I said, for 2021 that I was going to work on my physical, mental and spiritual development, and I really went with it. I grabbed the bull by the horns. I spent the first 30 days of January doing an Iron Mind with Rob Dial, which was a 30-day mindset challenge, which was exercising every day, a diet of choice, cold showers, journaling, meditating and no alcohol. And that was something that really, really helped me catapult where I wanted to be. I had also invested in an online trainer on an 8-week program and really actually changed my habits around what I was doing, and really was being mindful of what I was eating. And this year I've actually managed to lose just, I think, about 2 stone. So I'd lost 1.5 stone that I'd put on over the last year and a little bit more. And people always think that it's easy to do, but it's not easy. It takes a lot of discipline, because to overcome habits, and I think that is one thing I've learned, it takes discipline. There is days, and I'm not saying I'm not hard on myself. My relationship with food has changed massively. I don't beat myself up anymore if I overeat one day, because I know that 80% of the time I eat very well, and I eat within my calories that have been set by my trainer. So yeah, I think that's just another key takeaway I've taken from my physical development journey, is just about the relationship that you have with food. If you view it as a negative and you have negative connotations with things, that's why I don't particularly like the likes of Slimming World that view food as sins, because it's not sin to eat anything. It's about having a balanced lifestyle. Life is about balance. So yeah, and so I feel like I'm maybe waffling on a little bit here. It's hard to put a 4-year journey into one episode, so I do apologise if this is a little bit of a longer episode, but it's all stuff that's important, and I think it's important for me to discuss. So in February 2021, I announced I was a mindset coach, and that for me was something that I'd wanted to do for a while. And a part of that was for me to be vulnerable with people about my journey. And for a lot of people who had followed me on social media at the time, hadn't known I'd actually been on any form of physical development journey, because they'd probably seen me when I'd lost quite a bit of weight. So they didn't know how far I'd actually come. And for me to share my progress pictures was one of the most vulnerable and scary things I've ever done. I held on to that before picture like a safety blanket, because like I said, I used to feel so much shame about it, because I used to think, like I said, I was embarrassed, so embarrassed, and I thought me sharing that picture, people would sit there and think, how on earth did that girl let herself get like that, and they wouldn't look at where I was now. But I actually couldn't have been further from the truth. I put them pictures on my Instagram because I wanted to show people what is possible with a lot of hard work, a lot of discipline, a lot of ups and a hell of a lot of downs, but what is possible with consistent action. That if I could have embarked on the journey that I have, that anybody else can, because I'm no different to anybody else. There's some amazing transformation pictures out there. Not just people losing weight, but people gaining weight, people overcoming things. There's some incredible transformation pictures out there, and transformations that people have been on and continue to go on, that are all equally as inspiring. So when I posted that picture, I didn't launch anything. When I posted that picture, the transformation picture, it was it was like I'd let go of the old version of me and I'd stepped into this new version of me. This new version of me that was actually proud of herself, proud of her journey. And I got so many people messaging me, like asking me what I'd done. But I don't think what people compute sometimes, it wasn't an overnight thing. My transformation journey, like my physical development journey, has been 3.5 years, pushing on 4 years in November this year, of hard work, of having to challenge like what I thought I was, challenge like my relationship with food, unlearn what I thought of myself, really unlearn the negative self-talk I had around myself about how I was disgusting, I was fat and all these things. Really had to unlearn everything I thought I was to learn and become everything I am, which is someone who is proud of herself, who is so grateful for her body and what it allows her to do, who is grateful for exercise because it is the biggest form of self-care for me now. And I just wanted to share my journey with you because of where I've been and like working on myself and how I've fallen in love with where I am at and who I continue to become, because it has taken me such a long time to accept who I am now. And now I'm here, I am really proud of myself, and I'm not saying that from a point of view of, no, it's not even thinking, because I'll do another whole other episode on this, why self-love is not selfish, because it's taken me so long, 25 years, to accept myself for who I truly am, for everything about me, and be happy with where I am at now, and fall in love with, even though I would like to improve still, fall in love with where I am and be proud of myself for the journey that I have been on. And I think the thing as well with personal development as a whole, it's about enjoying, you've got to learn to, and I talked about this in my episode about the key lessons, it's about falling in love with the journey. You have to fall in love with the journey of who you are, of who you're becoming and where you're at, because you're not going to appreciate it when you hit a certain weight. Just like when I lost 4 stone in the first time round, I didn't appreciate that because I was still so miserable inside and didn't work on my mindset. And it wasn't until I worked on my mindset I've learned the importance of falling in love with where I am at. I used to always resist exercise. I used to thought it was like a chore, but actually exercise for me now is a priority because I'm really aware, my awareness on how exercise makes me feel, my awareness on the importance of exercise, how it can improve your mental health, it makes you feel good. We're human beings, we're not human. Yeah, we're human beings, like we need to move. We're not designed to be sat down. And people always say to me, like, how do you find time? You find time for things that are a priority. And for me, exercise is a priority because, like I said earlier, it's a massive form of self-care. Like it's a huge part of self-care for me because it makes me feel good. It's a time where I can spend it. I'm spending time on bettering me. And I think when you shift your perspective to that, you realise that it's not a resistance if something is making you feel great about yourself, if you're doing something for you. And that's how I view exercise now. And I think as well, people think it needs to be this huge thing of, oh my God, I can't go to the gym for an hour. It doesn't have to be going for the gym for an hour. You could go out for a 20-minute walk. You could do a 20-minute HIIT workout. You could just do anything where you're moving your body for even like 10, 20 minutes. It's still better than nothing. And it goes back to that compound effect that a little bit of exercise, like at the 1% every day, compounds over time. So, and the same goes for food. Eating healthy for one day isn't going to change anything, but consistently eating at like, even if it's 200 calories or less a day, over time will compound into a loss. And the other thing that I've learned about as well, just I'm going to touch on briefly on this because I'm aware I've had the length of this episode now, but the other thing is about the foods that we feed our body, because if you think about it, our body is like an engine. So if we fuel it with shit, we're going to feel like shit, whereas if we fuel it with nutritious food, it's going to run better. And that's just another like key thing that I have learned, like the importance of the foods that I put in my body. And I'm not saying I eat amazing all the time, but it's about that 80-20 rule. It's just about the awareness that you have of what you're putting into your body, what you're eating. But yeah, I'm going to round up this episode. That's probably quite an in-depth of of my I say it's in depth. It's a very short snippet of the last, like I said, the best part of 3.5-4 years of my physical development journey. And my key takeaways are from it is you have to be consistent. We don't get to the point where we are overnight. I didn't get to the size and the weight that I was overnight, so I can't expect to change it. So it's just about being patient, being consistent, and showing up every day. But also the other thing is learning not to be hard on yourself. Not to be hard on yourself if you have days where you feel like you're not showing up as the best version of you, because the goal is the journey. Not every day are we going to show up as who we want to be, but it's just about coming from a place of non-judgment, realising, having that awareness, and just going from there. And the biggest thing is about not using food as a comfort or food as a numbing agent, and actually looking at what was at the core of where I am at, and looking at other ways to deal with stress opposed to using food as a reward or a comfort. And the other thing is just prioritizing exercise as a form of self-care, because it is true. Exercise is a huge form of self-care. There's loads and loads and loads of health benefits, especially for mental health and just being outdoors and being in nature and stuff. So yeah, I'm just going to round up there because I feel like I could go on and on talking about my physical development journey. But I just wanted to give you a little insight of how far I have come. The goal is infinite. I will always strive to be the best version of me. I am my priority now. I will always prioritize exercising every week because, like I said, it is one of my forms of self-care. But it's all about learning to love where you are in the journey that you are on, appreciating your body for what it is, what it does, and what it allows you to do, and just being mindful of that. When we talk negatively to ourselves, it is like a form of self-abuse. So please just be mindful of how you're speaking to yourself, and speaking to yourself about the way that you look, because your brain doesn't know when you're joking. So if you're negatively talking about yourself, your brain doesn't, even if you think that you're joking, your brain can't compute that difference. So just be mindful. And even if you are not where you want to be, just be grateful for where you're at, for what your body allows you to do, and affirm that I am grateful. I am working on becoming the best version of me physically. I am working on fueling my body with the right foods. I am working on becoming fitter. I am working on becoming, physically stronger. All these things that you can affirm because you are working on it, and just be mindful of the journey that you're on. The goal is infinite. And I just wanted to share this with you, because if I can make the changes that I have, then so can you. I've not done anything out of the ordinary. It was just a case of learning to understand the importance of moving more, eating less, and just being mindful and looking after my body. So I am going to round it up there. I would obviously love to hear from you. You can contact me via Instagram at LornaMcKenna_. Please, do reach out. I'm interested to hear from you, about your development journey, your physical development journey, or if just anything has resonated with you with what I've said and you want to just discuss it a little bit more. Please do message me on Instagram, contact me on Instagram at LornaMcKenna_. It is in the show notes as well. But I'm going to leave it there. But I do again appreciate you for listening. I appreciate the support, and I appreciate any shares on social media where people have listened to episodes, because if it benefits you, it could benefit from other people, and that is the only way that we can grow. But that being said, thank you so much for listening, and here is to making your mindset truly matter.